It has been 12 years since James Aries, the tall Marshall Dillon from Gunsmoke, left the world in peace. For many years, his personal life was the subject of many stories. There are hidden battles and Hollywood tensions. One of his kids now has finally broke the silence and told truths that no one dared to talk about before. The real James Aries was a lot more like us, more eerie and interesting than the world ever saw. James Aries died in June 3, 2011. He was at home in Los Angeles at the age of 88. A huge figure on his death was shown on TV and in real life, quietly said that it reflected the same secret nature that had made him who he was the world. The day he died, the main website put out a posthumous letter from Arnest to his friends in which he wrote, "My life was great and lucky to have so many loved people in his life and good friends. I wanted to take this time to thank all of you for after watching Gunsmoke for years, the How the West Was Won. Even during his youth, one of Aries' jobs stayed an interesting topic amid rumors and gossip, his link with John Wayne. The two men had worked together on several movies, and it was Wayne Sadvis that helped Arnest get the Gunsmoke play the lead part. But rumors of there is strain and a gap between the two went on for years. Fans and reporters talked about the story for decades, amazed by the difference between praise from the public and private fights. While the whole truth of the relationship stayed mostly hidden, it turned into one of Hollywood's long-lasting secrets. A subject that came up again whenever Aries' job was they didn't celebrate or remember it, but not until 12 years after he died, that a better look at the man behind the story came to light, that Arns's living children spoke out. They talked about their dad in public for the first time, giving us a look into parts of his life that not many people had ever knew. The revelation gave a fuller picture of James Aries, a person who weighed the needs of Hollywood, the shadow of the wounds he got in battle, and the tasks of being a father, all while keeping the mysterious calm of Come On, Marshall Dillon. Let us talk about the untold story of James Aries' life. There were fights and secrets that no one saw. James Aries was born on May 22nd as James King Arns on June 26, 1923, in Minneapolis, Minnesota, came into the world as a huge person even while it was being made. His dad, Ralph Circler Arns, worked as a wandering salesman man of business, while his mother, Ruth Dosler, made her own way as a reporter and newspaper writer. Growing up in a mixed-race family, James was not ambitious and smart at the same time. He was on his own on his trip. Peter Graves, born Peter Duller, is his brother. Arns, who later became famous as That Was For Now, though. James' story was just starting. James went to a number of Minneapolis schools, such as John School for Burroughs Kids, Washburn High West High School, and East High School. When they finished in June 1942, they went into a world at war and having a strong desire do his duty for his country. Height, which would become his signature on screen, at first obstructed, wasn't going to become a pilot in March 1943. He joined the U.S. Army, becoming a member of the 3rd Infantry Division as James would be put to the test in the war in ways that no school could ever do. On August 22, 1944, he arrived on the beaches of Anzio, Italy, in a very important fight against Nazi forces. Because of his size, he was the first as the man got off the landing craft, a job that would put him at risk of the greatest threat. Machine gun fire tore his right leg, leaving him very badly hurt. Multiple surgeries after that, he was finally caught, got away, and went back to the United States. Despite the stress, James came out of it with a strong will. He was let go on January 29, 1945. Soldier who was given the Bronze Star Medal, Purple Heart, and a number of others battle awards. His time in the war would leave a mark on him, physically, but also in terms of bravery and the toughness that would define him later living. When James got home, he briefly went back to school at Bow College in WI, but he found his calling. The mic called to him from somewhere else. Afterward, he became a radio host in 1945 at TWLL in Minneapolis. And strong aura making an effect on listeners. But the Walsall radio station couldn't hold his with goals in mind and an eager spirit and a need for more. James did something brave. He left while the radio was stable, grabbed his things, and hitched a ride across from the farm to Hollywood. The way forward was unknown, full of doubt, and even though there was a chance of danger, of a fate much bigger than anyone could picture. After moving to with James Aries stepping into a world that could be both exciting and unwilling to forgive. The city was full of artists who are hopeful, dreamers, and a constant hum of desire. And he was set on making his mark. So went to casting calls, met with agents, and had to face the hard truth that success was never a promise. In 1947, he made his first movie was The Farmer's Daughter, given the name Oris. It was just the start, but it opened the door to a job that would grow much beyond hopes of anyone. Aries' amazing height, which had kept him from being a pilot, standing there was now an undeniable advantage. Being over 6 feet 7 inches, he easily held the heat, could take over a Western movie screened at scene, without saying a word. Other types of music. His presence brought a strong feeling of authority and heat that not stuck in just one kind of job in early works of science fiction, like in 1951, The Thing from Another World, and they had in 1954, he showed a surprising range of skills, showing that their skills went beyond the dry plains of a major turning point in Western Townsend. Aries' rise went through a relationship with Hollywood star John Wayne. The two guys made a bond at work that would change the path of Aries. He showed up in several movies with Wayne, such Island in the Sky, Hondo, Big Jim Land, and The Sea Chase. Each one gave him a lot of joy. More attention, which let him to improve his role on TV. In 1955, once more, fate stepped in. A lead role idea for a new Western TV show was John Wayne knew what was going on. Aries' strong personality and skill asked him to play the part. The show, Gun, that would become the famous Gunsmoke. James had to take a leap of faith. The part was originally meant for Wayne, a movie star, talked him into accept TV. It was a brave move. It was his choice, but it would shape his future for many years. Right now, Aries' star was going up. The height that had it was as now that it had been a barrier most powerful trait. The person who had been having a hard time as a radio host in now. Minneapolis was about to becoming an important part of culture. Fame came with demands that could not be seen. Tests that could put even a man Ophi's huge height and unshakable spirit. Thanks to his suggestion, James Aries got he played a part that would shape his life that came to be U.S. Marshal Matt Dillon inputting yourself in the shoes of a person who would become the personification of the Western hero for a generation. The first episode aired in 1955 and ran for an incredible 20 years. Aries was in every movie that came out after 1975, just one episode of the original show. Something that talks not only to his commitment, but also to the appeal of his act. How Marshall Dillon was portrayed helped shape what a lot of people call the adult Western. The more simple and light Westerns that followed Gunsmoke used to have stories with things like weight, moral complexity, and reality. Dillon stood for what was right and was a lawman who had to make tough choices with quiet power. Through Arnest's act, people who watched felt the strain of justice weighed against the weakness of people, and the hard way of life in Dodge City became intensely real. His powerful presence and tough attitude made Dillon more than he was just a character on TV. It became a sign of honesty, and even though he was famous, Arrested, a quiet and modest man that stayed out of the Hollywood spotlight, likes living a quiet life away from the movie business is full of glitz and chaos. Many of my friends and coworkers commented on his strong sense of reality and his skill to focus on his skill and not give in to the spoils of fame. For Aries, Gunsmoke was never just a show for fun. He saw the show's greater meaning. Stories that looked into morality and choices that matter to real things that happen, and a feeling of honesty that struck a chord with viewers. He knew what the strength of the show was, how realistic it was, and the people put their trust in the people. When the show ended in 1975, Aries kept thinking about the part he played. Had made famous. From 1987 to 1994, he played Matt Dillon again in 5 made-for-TV shows like Gunsmoke that show the character's lasting attraction and his own still. I have a strong connection to the story. Under the calm surface of Dodge City, there was still pain and stress, and Aries carried marks from the wounds he got in battle, to the stress of family problems, and the stress of playing a role for 2 decades. John Wayne and James Arres shared a bond that went beyond the before Gunsmoke made Aries, and the two guys had worked for a well-known work together on a number of movies, Island in the Sky, Hondo, Big Jim Land, and The Sea Chase. How they worked together was more than just work, a real relationship. Wayne understood Arn's skill and strong personality, and it was his advice that helped Arns get the famous part of Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. That one act with helped change the course of Aries as he went from suffering to succeeding in life, the actor to one of TV's most stars that last. But even the best, even in Hollywood, bonds were not safe. From sources say that a really important moment put their relationship to the test. Arnest and Wayne, which caused a split that Wayne planned for him to never fully heal. Arn starting a film project that he loves off a large size and personal something important, maybe like the size of the Alamo. An offer was given, a chance to make their work together on another important history project that is Aries, who is dedicated to Gunsmoke or maybe afraid of taking on too much. I missed the whole meeting because I wasn't there. Even if it seemed small at the time, a single missed chance in a busy work, but in Hollywood, where when it comes to timing and appearance, the Waynes' actions had huge effects that allegedly felt let down. And even they still had respect for each other. The missed meeting led to and there was an unseen stress between them. Different professional routes were taken, and the chances that could have been they no longer shared the friendship that had been so strong before was now tinged with the soft weight of what could have something to remind you of how even great in the movie business. Bonds Can Beers' business is still going strong despite the split. He did very well and became a TV star, a figure made famous by his role as Matt Dillon. While Wayne kept being in charge in the silver screen, they were polite. Still, how close they were in the past working together never came back. It was a friendship full of respect. There is loyalty and unspoken sorrow in this mix that accomplishments and missed chances that lives that are spent in the intensity. A lot of attention in Hollywood stood in the saddle with the famous people. The swirling fog of Hollywood talked about broken promises and unfinished plans. Fame, friendship, and loyalty was just as weak as the dusty wind. What they left behind it stood the test of time, but the shadow of what was lost remained in the air, every scene they shared. A prompt that even giants have more scars than people do. It can see even when the guns fall. Still, the sounds of the past could be heard, something like a time bomb hidden under the hard part of his stern face. The leg wound. James Aries was hurt in the Battle of Anzio, did more than just get better and fade away. Time. He went back home and building a great acting career. The accident left a slight but constant limp. Over the years, long-term pain would get worse. Out of the blue, a price warning in battle, he had paid. Simple movies a lot of people might take for granted turned into scenes that were hard and needed putting on, and taking off horses on Gunsmoke were especially hard to handle. Pain could happen at any time, forcing making changes on set and trying his strength. Even though he stood tall as Matt Marshall, the war had left a known for the mark that never really went away. For his very high level of secrecy, Aries kept his personal life that is mostly different from his fame. Co-stars finally said it after years off getting along. They still didn't get to know the man behind the huge figure. There are parties, social events, and we didn't really care about famous get-togethers. Instead, Aries went outside to find peace. Sailing, taking quiet walks in the woods, and arriving in the background brought him happiness. He liked a slower beat, one that was peaceful, that where he could go at his own speed and get away from the constant stress of work and attention from the people. But set wasn't always as calm as what people watched on TV. Rumors show times of stress behind there are cameras, including at least one dramatic argument with co-star Milbourne Stone, who played Doc Adams. While most of the information are still secret, these incidents show how complicated the relationships are that can be there even in long-term productions. Below the surface of friendship and habit, the needs of some time. A 20-year run ran into feeling, being tired, and personal. All of this pain, Arns had to deal with. Imposing aura and quiet power hit a man who was always dealing with physical being in pain and the stresses of staying true to a famous character. People saw a strong police officer as a symbol of law and order in Dodge City, but behind that picture, James bore the quiet cost of war, the aches that made him think of the past and making the choice to protect his private life from being snooped on. Every day it was more than just a show on set. That was a deal made with pain, endurance, and the attention that comes with fame. The crowd saw a steady guard doing the right thing. The man behind the weight of events was on the character. Not many people could fully understand. In 1948, he married Virginia Chapman and had Athet brought both happiness and they had a terrible breakup together, their own two children. A girl, Jenny Lee Aries, who was born on May 23, 1950, Ralph Orns, a boy born in February 18, 1952. Aries also hugged the son of Virginia from a past marriage, Craig Arns, and raised him as his own child. The love for all three children showed the strength and duty that are quiet that had led him since he was a child. But there were problems in the marriage. Virginia Chapman had mental health problems, health and drug abuse, and conflicts, things that finally led to the couple split. By the early 1960s, there was a breakup after the marriage. Arnes took full control of the children. Even though the marriage, he stayed a devoted father, juggling the needs of a groundbreaking job on TV with the duties of having three children. He raised his kids mostly by himself, hit with an unfair and unpleasant force. On May 12, 1975, Jenny Lee Arns passed away when she was 24 years old. It was found to be an intentional drug overdose, which broke James's heart. The loss of his daughter was made worse by the death of Virginia, his ex-wife Chapman, on July 29, 1977. Sources and depend on the specifics of her passing, and some are reporting an overdose by accident and others citing her ongoing problems with drugs abuse. These two deaths were personal and very painful, but Arnes decided to do it anyway, not to talk about them in public, which shows his lifelong preference for being careful and keeping his family from the media. Paid close attention in 1978, a security and friendship away from the bright lights of Hollywood. She married Janet Surtees, went on until his death in 2011. By reports, Janet kept a steady, quiet life, which let James get away from focus and interest of the public on his. They shared a secret world and grew a peaceful, helpful home, giving a rest break he had been looking for from the stress of fame. Behind the tough exterior, Marshall Matt Dillon was there. The man who had faced criminals and danger on-screen showed cuts that were much deeper than anyone could see. His sadness, his quiet strength, and his unwavering his love for his children marked the legend's man behind the scenes. The scars at home have healed, but the ones of the loss stayed, unseen but still there, behind the Marshall's serious eyes. A sad father walked by himself with not by blasts, but by loss. Though most people rarely saw those scars never got better. Once Gunsmoke was over in 1975, James arrested didn't look away from the screen that kept up the steady work, taking on projects that showed off his skills, and in 1976, he played the lead role in Thea part in the TV movie The Mackins that led to the TV show in the next series, How the West Was Won, which ran from 1976 to 1979, that later started writing about modern. The police show tells stories in 1981 and 1982. Milan's Law proved that his skills were not limited to only westerns. But it was his. There was still a link to Matt Dillon. He was at his best from 1987 to 1994 that took on the famous part again in 5 TV shows like Gunsmoke, telling viewers why he was a hero, for his work was well done. Aries that got a star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood fame, which shows how important he was. He writes about TV and pop culture. Many people praise it as one of the most famous Western stars of all time. This was the man who represented the strong, moral, and tough police officer for a generation. The adult Western was marked by performances, giving people who were not perfect but very much human and brave thoughts on right and wrong and patient perseverance. The same was true in Arn's daily life, with which he played his parts. Even though he was hurt in the war and had to long-term pain in a daily life despite disaster, he kept his honor, resilience, and humility. He stayed away from the pleasures of Hollywood and the shine of fame instead of living a quiet life, caring for their family, and living a simple life. His second marriage to Janet Certificate gave me security and a calm place to hide from the public eye, where he could be himself and get away from the legend he made up on the screen. Still a huge figure in American history of TV, both literally and in a figurative sense. As Marshall Matt Dillon, for Western heroes, he set the bar high. Stable, decent, human, and long-lasting. In the gun case behind the badge was a man changed by war, death, and making it through humble. A man whose real life was like interesting as the people he writes about shown. When the cameras finally, the tale died when the film stopped rolling, but the man stayed. In quiet houses, in secret thoughts, and in the hearts of the real him to those who knew and loved him, James Aries kept living the spotlight. He left a legacy that is still being lived on by generations who knew the giant who he was once a big deal in Dodge City at the screen, and a man who is. What do you think about the role? Tell us about a secret part of James Aries' life that what you think and feel in the comments are below.